Photos shot with the Sony A7 IV are just absolutely bonkers. Like, it's ridiculous how good the photos really are. And I recently went to New York to take some street photography with this camera, along with the 16 and 35G master lens, and I wasn't really doing any favors by using a wide-angle lens to show off the camera's capabilities. But because this camera shoots 33 megapixel photos, I was still able to zoom in and get some really, really fine, detailed shots because this camera is so good. It's so good. So these photos were obviously shot with a Sony A7 IV and the 16 and 35G master lens, and I thought they turned out pretty good. I mean, I had a little bit to do with it, but the A7 IV is such a powerful performer. Like, it's easy to take really good photos with this camera. Oh, and by the way, if you want to see the photos that you just saw on your very own computer, you can actually download the RAW and JPEG photos down in the description below. And so if you don't want to listen to anything else I say in this video, you just want to take a look at the photos, then feel free, download them down below. Now, this video is not going to be a full breakdown of the A7 IV for photos and videos. I kind of made my first impressions review video on this camera a few months ago, so definitely check that out. This video, I'm just going to focus on the photography capabilities of this camera, and oh man, this is honestly the best photography camera that I've ever used. Like, it's my favorite. You're my favorite. I will be doing a comparison video between the A7 IV and the A7S III, so stand by for that. But again, for this video, we're just gonna focus on photography. Now, the main reason why I got the A7 IV is because I really wanted a really good photography camera that also complemented my Sony A7S III. Now, the A7S III is by far the best video camera that I've used that happens to take decent stills, but the A7 IV takes really, really good photos that also happens to shoot amazing 4K 10-bit 422 video that perfectly complements my Sony A7S III. I have to say that because, like, for the past 3 to 4 weeks, like even during the holidays, I've been getting comments and DMs saying, "Why would you ever downgrade from the A7S III to get the A7 IV? You're such a dummy, Sid." I have both. I've got both cameras. Dummy. But since this is my main new photography camera now, I'm just gonna share my experience with the A7 IV, especially in a chaotic environment like New York City, as well as spill the tea and share some pros and cons. Alright, so overall user experience. It was great. I mean, the ergonomics of this camera is fantastic. Like, I love the bigger grip on the A7 IV, a little bit bigger than the A7S III, but because it is slightly bigger, I'm able to grip the camera a bit better, or a bit more, a bit better more. I'm able to hold the camera better. And when you're running around in a place like New York, like, you want to be able to make sure that you are holding onto your camera tightly because it's New York, come on, I'm a walking here. They don't really say that. I say that. Tourists say that, but New Yorkers don't really say that. Maybe some do. Oh, and by the way, I got to see Hamilton for the first time live. Oh, so good. So good. The button layout of the A7 IV is very familiar with most Sony cameras, but with the extra wheel on the top, like that used to be the default wheel for controlling your exposure. I actually customize it where I can change the ISO instead of the exposure, which I think is a lot more helpful. I'm also working on a best settings video for the A7 IV. It's a really, really good video. It's really long, like it's like 30 minutes long, but very good. And speaking of wheels and buttons, I love the dual dial system on top of the camera. Like on the bottom, you have your dials to switch up between photography mode, video mode, and SNQ mode. And then on the top, there are 3 different custom dials which you can assign specific settings for each mode. So that means I can create 3 different custom settings for photography mode, 3 different custom settings in video mode or movie mode, and 3 different custom settings in SNQ mode, giving me a grand total of 9 different custom settings. Actually, there's 10. There's like a secret one that not many people know about. There's 10, which is really cool. When I was walking around New York, I mainly shot using Custom Dial 1 for photography. And basically in Custom Dial 1, I've set it up where everything else is automatic except for the f-stop. I wanted to make sure that all my photos were shot in f2.8 because, well, I just wanted to. And this allowed the camera to change the ISO and the shutter speed and even white balance automatically while still retaining the f2.8 aperture. In Custom Dial number 2, the main thing that's changed is the white balance. I made sure that the white balance is consistently daylight. And then Custom Dial number 3, that's more for like long exposure shots. I'll explain more of that in my settings video coming up pretty soon. But yeah, those are the 3 different custom dial modes that I use for photography. Now let's talk about overall performance of the A7 IV. It's fast, man. Like, it's solid, it's fast. The menu system is easy to navigate through because it's the same menu system as the A7S III and FX3. Color science is vastly improved over the A7 III and very similar to the A7S III. And of course, the 33 megapixel sensor. I mean, not only am I able to get some high resolution photos, but I can really zoom in on a shot and still retain its sharpness and print it out. And I know that I've said that photos shot with 12 megapixel cameras like the A7S III are totally fine for platforms like social media and even to make small prints. But at 33 megapixels, like, that's gonna be very handy for creatives in the wedding industry or for photographers that shoot landscapes or architecture. I mean, the higher resolution is only gonna result in a sharper looking image. And so yeah, 33 megapixels, just, it's very fun to shoot photos with a camera like this. And I don't necessarily think it's the 33 megapixel sensor, although it is very nice. I just think overall, it's a very fun camera to use for photography and video. And it really does kind of remind me of my A7 III days, which I loved. I loved using the A7 III. Such a great camera. It had that dumb tilting screen. I didn't really like that, but this is definitely better. And I think it's reasonably priced to take some high resolution photos and shoot 4K 10-bit 422 video. Like $2,500, I think is a decent price to get all of that. I mean, if you want to get the ultimate hybrid camera, then, you know, that's going to be the Sony A7IV, which costs like $6,000. Is it $6,000 now? Hold on, let's find out. Aloha One. Oh, that should be the new Sony camera name. The Sony Aloha One, yes, $6,500. That's a lot of money. Ooh, let's find out how much the A7S III is. There's like a big shortage right now. All right, B&H, $3,500 and still back ordered. Wow, that's crazy. You know, on Amazon, they're selling the A7S III for $4,000. Just nuts. And that's pretty much my thoughts on the A7 IV in terms of photography. Did I talk about pros and cons yet? I mainly talk about the pros. What about the cons? There are none.